breath to get settled, and we shall begin. We are ready to begin. We are so pleased you're here. And again, we have waited for you your entire lives, but you have waited for you your entire life. And now is the time that you meant to recognize that. The reason that we have this particular message on the screen is that none of you have believed that you had the benefits to bring to your world, and you do. And you did it so at this time you could help your world to evolve. Everything that we have given you since 2012 and beyond has been to bring you to this moment in your world's history. If you haven't noticed, the last few years have been a little challenging for all of you, and you wanted that because if you went through the challenge, you would allow yourself to evolve, and in your evolution, you cause your world to do precisely the same thing because you are one. In every civilization, all you're doing is attempting to come back to oneness. Now, the difficulty for you now is that you chose a particular time where it would be a lot. It would be stressful. It would feel like it might be too much for you, yet it isn't. We gave you something in writing the other day where we reminded you of an incident that occurred in 2012 in San Diego, California, a fireworks display that was supposed to be a massive explosion of celebration. But what happened was there was a glitch, and that glitch caused everything to go off all at once and within 12 seconds. And everyone was disappointed because they thought it was just something that's gone wrong. No, that was the beginning. That was a wake-up call. It was another symbol. It was another signal, however you might want to think of it, that you were moving into a new era. You were moving into something that was going to be different within you and your world. Your world evolves only when the humans present cause that to happen. And that is who you are. And this is why you chose this time. While it may seem confusing and difficult for you to accept that you actually chose this life experience, please believe that you did. Now, the reason we say that is because Roger couldn't believe that, and this is why we've had such a struggle with him as you might have had with yourself in terms of believing your mission, your purpose, why you are on the earth, because it is a valid one and it's a very valuable one, and that is why you are here now. Because if you decide to love yourself, if you decide to recognize all you've been given and all of those benefits, then you will cause your world to change. Now, we're saying, and we gave you that message in 2012 because we knew you might not see things the same way that we do. And we see the destruction that is currently happening as a needed or a necessary part of your evolution. You cannot build anything new unless you tear down the old. Now, but you're going to go through a struggle. The reason we gave you the program is we knew how long this was going to take, and you're going to be in this particular phase of your world's evolution for at least another year in your particular time, your linear time, which we have little awareness of. However, you are here now to accelerate the evolution of your world. And you can only do that if you decide to own yourself. If you decide to love yourself, let go of your judgments, let go of everything you think you have not done. Now, we're saying this purposely for Roger because he's felt guilty that he could not get more of you to understand what we have given you. But see, he had to come to understand that first. He had to come to accept it as each of you do in your own experience. You were given a path to follow that would cause your life to become more, better, evolve, however you think of it in those terms, as well as the world. However, you got a little off track sometimes, and your world has gotten off track. Now, the reason we wanted him to do a session today, because we're coming upon the celebration of the 4th of July in the United States. 2 years ago, we told you that you were going through a restructuring and that the United States would lead the way. And as you look at the country now, you would think, well, wow, something's really gone wrong. No, it hasn't. It is part of the process. You had to look at all of your restrictions, all of your controls, all of your limitations, all of that, so that you could break free of them. But you can't do that unless you see that they have existed, and they have existed for eons. They've existed throughout your civilizations. And each of you, in your own way, are helping to move through those restrictions so your world becomes better, so your world evolves. And that can only happen when you start to evolve or allow yourself to have that happen. Every message that we have given you in the last 2 years has been about this time in your world. Now, the reason the United States is leading the way and why none of you understood why we gave you that information is that this is their, in astrological terms, which is also galactic, they're moving through a phase, as you all do in your individual journeys, in your individual evolutions, and that of your world. But there are countries that do that as well, and the United States is one. They happen to be moving through what's called a Pluto return. And during that period, what is meant to happen is a review of what you have done, what you haven't done, what you got wrong, what you wanted to change, what you wanted to develop. That's what's happening. And so for the longest time, they were leading what you call your free world, but they got off track because they said when they began that they were going to have equality for all. You were breaking away from certain old restrictions, which is why the country was founded to begin with, so that you could create something new. But then you went into separation. And the separation you went into is trying to believe that some people were better than others, some people were more, all of that. And then it got, for hundreds of years, it got off balance. So the only thing that's happening now is a restructuring so that you could get back on your footing, so that you could get back on your path. We mean the world. We mean your entire world. Yes, you're doing it through your life because that's why you're here. That's why you exist, because the world is you. Once you understand that. And so we wanted to prepare you. Everything that we've given you, and the reason we said we gave you your life operating instructions was so that you could guide your life. You wanted to live this autonomous life of sovereignty where you could manifest and develop everything that you wanted. You wanted that, and your world wanted that as well. But you cannot do that when you have division, when you have conflict, and when you have judgment. And most of the judgment you have placed on yourselves. And there we have to start. So when you begin to let go of everything that you think you got wrong, you didn't do correctly, or that was learning. We've given you so many messages on that topic alone. But then you start to beat yourselves up and you screw up the energy, so to speak, when that happens, because now you've stopped your own momentum and it is yours. Only person who can change that is you. The only person who can change the world is you. Now we're saying that because we know that many of you do not believe that you're that significant, that you hold that much power, but you do. Every human does. There's no one who was born with more power than you possess, except you just don't want to accept that or believe it. And we're saying this purposely because we have to say this to Roger, because he knows that he had something that could make your world so much better if more people had it, but he could not give himself the way of getting that out there because of his doubt. You've each had it. And now is the time where you were meant to move through that doubt, the fear as well, so that you could become more, and so would your world. Now, we're giving you this today because you are moving into another phase of this restructuring, as we said, which is going to last for a little while, and you're going to feel things that look frightening to you. You've already had that with your pandemic, which we said to you that was something that we wanted you to have so that you could come together, except you've used that to separate yourselves, and you're still doing that to a degree now. However, that will improve and that will get better because now you have other things that you're going to be focused upon, but all of them are going to feel like they're causing conflict or wars or division and all of that, but only so that you could come together. We gave you that in 2012. We said that the conflict and unity always coexist. Do you see? They're always together. Or some of you think of it as duality. That's always existing, but you get to choose where you're going to go. You get to choose what you're going to add your energy to. But first, and the first place you have to begin, you must begin, is within yourself, is within you, bringing together and owning every aspect of you, because that's why you're here. You live a physical life that's finite, that's this certain period of time in your human terms. But we told you that you're only here for a little bit. You're only here for a finite moment in your world's history. That's all. But while you're here, you're meant to do something for yourself, which is having your soul evolve, allowing your soul to evolve. And you do that through all of the actions that you take, all of the thoughts that you think, all of that. And you know how it feels when you're holding yourself back, because it's uncomfortable and you feel restricted. And that is what your world is moving through currently. That is what is happening. So, but we wanted you to understand, because what you're going to see is everyone holding on to their ideas and their beliefs and wanting to be right. We told you, we gave you a message also during this time that you are right and so are they. Now, you must understand this, because otherwise nothing gets changed. You are going to feel, you're going to see all sorts of opinions, ideas, and all of that, and you're supposed to have them. You each will have differing ones, because you cannot create anything without the contrast. You don't have any way of choosing. So you're going to see other people, as we've said many times, you're going to see these others who are going to be expressing ideas, beliefs, and actions that you're going to disagree with, and you might want to hate them. And if you hate them, you're not helping the evolution of your world, and you're not helping your evolution, you see, because that doesn't feel good. Nothing, you were supposed to have this life that felt good. And you can't hold certain emotions and feel good at the same time. It's just not possible. And so now you're looking at that, and you're going to decide that you're going to make this difference. You're going to start to love yourself and get on with doing what you came to do. You're not here forever. You're not in physical form forever. Every message we gave you in 2012 was about your physical life experience, because we wanted you to understand that, it looks like everything is falling apart, or you might die. That never happens to begin with, which we've also told you, because you're an eternal spirit. So you're not going, that doesn't happen. You just transition into a different form, which is what's occurring now. And your world is transferring into a different form. There are certain things that are happening in the world, in your little planet, that you have not seen ever. They've not existed, because it's going into a new place. So you have this resistance to change, to going into the unknown. So you become fearful. And your world is doing that. So that's why so many people are thinking that everything's going wrong, and it isn't. When you think that things are going to happen that are terrible, what you begin to do is fight. That's what happens. And you're seeing that in your world everywhere. And it's going to be a bit more, but you have an obligation to yourself to decide, I'm not going to participate in that. I'm going to decide to love me. I'm going to put out more love and light into the world. And then what happens is your life starts to expand. Your life starts to become more. And we also said to you that this is what is occurring. As you're going through this change in your world, it is also a shift in the wealth and income inequality, because even though money and possessions and things don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, you've always used them as humans to control one another, and to try to either make yourselves feel more by how much you owned, or make others feel less because of what they did not have. That is not what you wanted. You wanted oneness. You wanted unity. You wanted to be able to see that all others are you. And that is healing. That is love. That's what causes everything to expand. Now, we can't say that you're going to move into this utopia that many of you have thought of, because that really never happens, because you still have to move through challenges and difficulties to evolve, always. That is part of the process. But this is an extraordinary time, which is what we have been attempting to tell you. all this time. Now, we've said that in 2012, there were many, we're using this particular time in your human experience, your linear time, because that's something that you can relate to or remember. And you also have now with your technology, you have the ability to look back and look on your internet and see all of the things that happened in 2012, which were not the ones that you wanted, but you're healing those. You see, they evolved around everything, especially around women and Black people or any other race, anything that you have put down. There are so many instances there, and it also revolved around your world. You had weather events that were starting to occur during that time that were extraordinary, that you'd never seen, but you still didn't change enough to cause it to be better now. And now you're looking at your world, and there are things happening now with which you could change, but there are things occurring now with all of your weather events, and there are going to be more, hopefully to help you wake up to what you could change within yourselves and allow your governments and everyone else to do the same. But there are things that will come through in these next couple of months that you're going to be surprised about. Well, you already have been. Your heat, how hot can it get? You know, that's what's been happening. You're thinking, how is this happening? And if you haven't noticed this, there were so many events all pushed together that you're all experiencing, and you're saying, why is all this happening at once? We told you. We gave you everything. We gave you something the other day, and we said, we told you everything. We've given you everything you needed to know, all of that, but the belief wasn't there. The belief wasn't there in Roger, even though it came through him, but he's like you. He doesn't know what he's receiving all the time, and this is what he does. So he has to go back and look and listen before he even knows what we're saying. He won't remember much of this today until he hears it later. But that is still purposeful for him, because he has to break through his limitation, because he's not been willing to take the lead. And we've told you about that. His 2005 dream, which he tried to put away. Each of you have done that. You've had a dream about who you were meant to be, what you were going to do, how you were going to live your lives, but you kept putting it away a little bit at a time. But now it becomes much more valuable energetically for you in your life, but it becomes much more valuable for you to start to put that back together. We gave you the fireworks thing, and we said it could happen in 12 seconds. You could change your world that quickly as well. Because it's all in your mind. It's all in how you choose to think, and the mindset, which we love using that because you're all thinking of that now, but it's mindfulness, your mindset. If you were to use that in the way that would help your life, you would help your world. Many, many years ago, we gave you something called focused attention. And what that meant was that you only move through your lives, your physical life, through your mind, the thoughts you choose to think, and you create everything that way. The only thing of a physical nature that has which you can think of as a physical nature, is your mind. But those are thoughts, energetic thoughts. Think of the ethers, think of this air, think of something else, so you understand. But it holds power, and that power is creative. And there's still things that you're uncovering. We had Roger see the other day that they're discovering more particles. And the particles are, this is physics, your quantum physics, your mechanical physics, these things are being discovered, meaning that you're coming to understand how you create everything, how you create your lives, how you create your world. And you haven't known all of it, which is why humans are still uncovering and discovering them. And all of these events, everything that has happened has caused you, everything that's happened in your world has caused all of you to discover more. There have been so many discoveries that have been made in the last several years that many of you have not paid attention to, but they have improved your world. This happens in every civilization, and you just happen to be alive now with so many of them happening all at once. And so you're going to see this division that's going to arise, and your job is to love yourself. That doesn't sound like it's going to make a difference, does it? It will. Everything is energetic, you see, and you have that much power. You decided to have a life so that you could continually own, develop, and feel and realize how powerful you are, the ability that you have to do absolutely anything. So any challenge that you might be moving through is what you wanted. That's why you wanted it. We told you so you could find your benefits, you see? That's every terrible event that you've seen in the world is meant to cause you to go within and decide to change that. Yes, you change that. And the way you change it is by deciding to love yourself. We know that sounds selfish to many of you, and it's far from that. It's the most productive thing you could possibly do. And some of you have gotten on track with that. And Roger was the main one. He could not give so much. He's had this life, and we've given you some of this before, but he had a memory of his old life where he had all of these things he felt he did wrong or didn't do enough or whatever. So he decided to work through those things, but still got to the place where he thought, I still need to suffer more. Many of you have done that, and it's time to let it go. You have to move beyond that. You have paid your debt, whatever you think that might be. If it's karmic debt or whatever, it's done. And the minute you decide that it's done, your world expands. You expand. Your life becomes more, which is why you are here. And again, everything that we gave you was only to guide you to your brilliance, to your authenticity, to understand how important you are. And it doesn't matter what you came into the world with that you might have judged as being bad, wrong, or not enough. That was just your human perception, which you do not know how valuable that is. You always live with what we call limited awareness. And that's a consciousness that you are meant to expand. And that is what is happening now. But it's all your perception. So if you are to look at your world and think everything's falling apart and add that energetic element to it, you will cause more of that to happen. If you look at your world, which is what we've been attempting to give you all of this time, if you can look at everything that's happening and know that what's happening is causing your world to become better, become more loving, to become more inclusive, all of those things that you want, then you will see that start to happen. And you need to add your energy to that. Now, we're saying this because there are many in your world now who are doing something completely different than you are, and you're going to see that. But that's the life that they chose purposely. You see, they did that intentionally because they gave you contrast. They gave you something to choose. You can look at someone and say, their behavior is just terrible and I hate them so much. Okay, now what are you going to do? Do you see? There's a benefit in everything that occurs, but your judgment will cause you to maybe go in one direction or the other. Judgment typically, in the way that we're using it, is something that is you're judging as being wrong or bad or whatever human term you might use. It is none of that. It is just contrast, and you are to look at it so that you evolve. Your evolution, you're this eternal spiritual being, and you have these different lives. And we know that for some of you that's a little challenging to accept it, but just attempt to do that. And so you come into the world at a specific time in the world's history where you're going to bring in certain elements from your DNA. We love using that because we want you to know that you are connected to all that is. So even if you've had your DNA test done, you'll see that you have these strains from all different countries, races, all of that. You have all of that because you're all human. There's no separation there. However, you need separation to experience separation while on the physical plane so that you could cause unity. And that's what we gave you in 2012, because you're in a trajectory, you see? And some of you will have different memories of all of that. Some of you might have, and there are many people on the planet now who are quite aware of this period, and many of them are working together to try to help bring in more awareness and light and love into your world. There's so many, and the more that come together, the better. And this is why we gave Roger the program. We wanted him to have that so he could help his contribution with not only with himself, but with all of you. Now, we will say that each of you have had these, you've had these lives where the situations and the difficulties or the challenges that you've had, you could not understand. We are saying they were all valuable. See, because then you broke through something. You broke through some limitation that you had before, no matter how it felt to you. Doesn't matter what it was, if it was something of a physical nature, something mental, whatever it might be, it was all valuable. You've never had a bad experience. And we love using that human term because you do that. You've never had a bad experience. You've just had experiences that you have yet to gain the wisdom and knowledge from that you can articulate, you see, that you could put together, but you all have done that. And you're sitting in a place now in your lives where you're so valuable and you haven't recognized that. In our program, that's what we have you do. Go through and try to find those things. Sometimes it's really challenging because you have to move through your human judgment, first of all, about thinking, oh, if I look at this stuff, it's going to be terrible. No, we wanted you to look at that stuff so you could see how great you are. Who could go through something like that except you? Who could conquer all the things that you have except you? And that's made you brilliant. That's made you so much stronger and aware and empowered. And that's what we wanted you to have. There's so many things that you're going to see that not many will know of. So many will call them the dark forces, the battle between light and dark and all of that. While we understand, and that's, you need human terms to be able to see all of that, and that is how it would feel to you. But understand, it is just merely contrast. And see, on all of those people that you have seen doing these terrible things, we're just causing you to recognize what you have inside. And the minute you own that, everything starts to change in your life and then in your world. And as we've said before, you see, you've had other lives where you were those terrible people. We just wanted to say that you've had those lives where you had done these things that were not to your liking, let's say. However, now you decided, I'm going to forgive myself. Forgiveness is the most important thing that you could practice. Because see, in human form, you can't have a perception of how valuable all of your experiences are. You don't have that until later, after many of you, until you leave your physical bodies. However, if you are to practice forgiveness now, you will start to feel more of that. Because it's an energetic thing and it's all about feeling. So if you just start to practice the forgiveness, you will create something different. And then gratitude. That seems really crazy. We know, because you're looking at things that you might have experienced or things in your world or things that you've seen recently or that might come up that you say, how can I be grateful for that? You can. And the more that you are grateful, then you're bringing in the energy of acceptance, you're bringing in the energy of plenty, bringing in the energy of abundance, knowing that more and more is just going to come to all of you. And that's what we are talking about, this change in the world. You have ignored the separation of the wealth and income separation in your world that many of you have not known has become so vast that you have these certain people who are holding on to so much where you could save, you could help the rest of your world. You have parts of your world that are just destitute. People are starving and there are famines happening everywhere. And then you have others who are living in 100-room mansions that they do not need with all of this opulence. And you're looking at this separation and you're thinking, how is that possible? It's possible because you've been separated within yourselves. That's all. And as you understand, because the physical stuff never means anything. We've given you so much of that. We gave you something the other day about we use money specifically, but it's anything of a physical nature, anything of a physical material nature that doesn't really mean much because you're going to leave all of that. You don't take your bodies with you when you leave your physical form. You take your soul. That's all, because that's all that's eternal. That's all that will last, and even in your world. Now, but you do sit in a place currently in your world where you could go one way or the other. Everything is happening in the instant, in the moment. And so the more of you decide that you're just not going to take care of yourselves, you're just going to go into conflict, war, and all of that, you could destroy your planet. You could just absolutely have it go away. Those are the choices. We've told you in every talk that the world that you want to see is not guaranteed. Now, we understand that when we gave you all of that information more than a year ago, it didn't make much sense to you. But if you go back and listen to our recordings now, they will, because you will hear everything that's occurring now. We gave you clues of that or information about that. And again, that was something that Roger was he was unwilling to accept, as you were, because he can't believe, really? That's me? I have that within me? Yes, you do. And the more that you believe that, you change your world. And it's a collective thing this time, you see. It's the more of you who do that, you put in the kind of light and love and all of that that you want to see, you'll see it manifest, and you will see everything. You won't see it in this lifetime, but you will see it eventually. Understand that. You're creating something that many of you are not going to see in your physical lifetime, but it will, you're planting, think of it as planting the seed, so to speak, for your future generations, because that's why you're here. You're creating a new world. And again, if you study your astronomy, your history, your sciences, you will see that there's certain configurations in your world that have never happened in this physical world and the universe. So you'll see that these have never occurred before. So that's why it's might be stressful for many of you. But we also said that Roger has this ancient memory, so he understood to a degree, but he still, just like you, this resisted, not wanting to believe that. But now's the time that you are going to do that. You will. And we said the United States, again, as they're moving into their celebration tomorrow of July 4th, when they founded the country, and this is why we wanted to do this today, because we'll prepare you for the energy that you might put into whatever celebration if you are in the United States. But everyone in the world feels this, as we know. Every country is looking at the United States, waiting for them to be the example. And you will do that once you decide to be the example within yourself. That's exactly what we mean. Everything that you see occurring, and a lot of people are fighting about all the different rules that have been changed, the laws and all of that. You're all fighting about that, but you're fighting within yourself, you see, because the only place you experience freedom is internally. You experience it in your consciousness. And so you cannot become free in yourself if you're not allowing that to happen for others. And you learn that, you develop that throughout your civilizations. It doesn't happen all at once. You can see it's gradual. And this is why we've said, if you looked at your history, if you would go back and look at your civilizations that have gone over time, you will see a continual progression where things became better, you became more, you started to accept things. However, you had gone so off track, that's why you needed a restructuring, so that you could bring a different balance in, you see, because it's been so many years, it's hard to put this together in human terms, but eons we will use, but it's been so long that balance was just a little off. But that was also purposeful, you see, because if you shift that now, wow, would your world explode into this magnificent thing that you can't even imagine. You can't even think, put that in your awareness of what that could possibly be. But first you must, and we're saying this emphatically because we really want you to get this, you have to envision in your mind who you could be and decide to believe that. Decide to believe it, because see, when you believe that, your world will start to believe it, and you know what you want to see. You know the kind of world, you know the kind of life you want to have. Now that, again, we're going to go back to this because it is about your life. All the other events, everything that's happening outside in the world, are helping you to understand your life. And as you do that, you cause the world, your world, and the world at large to become more and expand. We know that's challenging. However, that is what you are doing. But you deserve to live a life where you're abundant, prosperous, happy, joyful, loving, all of those things. But you had to work through your karmic, your evolutionary blockages. That's all. Each of you, and they're different for each person. They're different and the same. They're different in that you have a unique experience that you're meant to live because that's your trajectory, that's your evolution. And everyone is doing that as well. But what you're doing is moving through your restrictions, and you're using your world events, everything that's happening in your life now, to cause that to happen. So if you go inside and say, okay, now who do I want to be? What did I want to do in this world now? And what can I envision? What would feel great for me? What would all of that? We want you to put it all down. We gave you that in several of the messages, some of the live conversations that we did last year. You'll see some of those. And there are a few that Roger has not downloaded yet. We're going to have him do that, because when you hear those, you will see, oh, wow, we knew back then. You'll hear that. And so we will have that happen. But you each have done that. You see, you've put things away that you thought, well, maybe I can't do that. Maybe that's not possible. And so then it wasn't. That's all. But that was an old thing. All of its old energy, everything was old. You are now meant to let go of everything that is old and create something new. And you can only do that when you decide to accept, understand, embrace, and love your importance for being in the world now. Your existence is so incredibly valuable, more so, more than just for your life, but for the world. However, the only way you can effectuate that, the only way you can cause that to happen is when you decide to give yourself the life that you always wanted. That's all. We had Roger see something yesterday where, and he's going to make a decision about this quite soon because he was struggling. He says, how can I get this to more people? How can I help more people? And that's an old thing for him as well, because he's clearing out all this guilt of what he didn't do before, but it's still okay. He will understand that soon. However, so he met, well, he found, we led him, we'll say, to someone who could absolutely take this and give him the clients that he wanted to work with to cause them to make a difference. And he can do it in a different way. And it's, this guy's going to lead him to people who are much more prosperous, because see, that's the area that you each need to deal in now, because you know your heart, you know what you want to see, and you know what you want for others. But you can't do that if you're not using all the human acumen, like money and possessions and all of that to do it. And so the shift, the imbalance that has gone on, you're supposed to have more now, so that you can not only cause your life to be better and live the way that you want and create the life that you wanted, but it will cause a shift globally. You must understand that. That's how important this is. That's how important this time is, which is why we've been doing this, why we gave you our work, our program, all of it was only for this time in your world. We know that's a challenging concept because it was challenging for Roger. He doubted us. We had him write something the other day. We hope many of you have seen it, where he pinpointed all the times where he doubted everything that was going on just to see it come about, and it was absolutely correct. Well, you have done that as well. You've done it in your life. You've even done it with what you've heard about our work, because you think that couldn't have possibly happened, but yet it did. And then we said, and we want each of you to get this, because you each have this power. There is no, as we've said, there's no hierarchy of souls. You must understand that. See, because you look at bodies and you think that people are more powerful than you. That's never true. It's just how much you choose to accept about yourself. You each have the equal ability and power to do this. And so we said to him, "What, we have given you something that could change your world." He said, "Wait a minute, that couldn't be me." Well, who is it then? Why? Why wouldn't it be you? You each have the ability, the power within you to change everything. But sometimes in civilizations, you go through and you give that power to others, and that is what has happened. And then when the others, as we've talked of, think that, okay, well, now we've gotten them to a place, we've subjugated them, we'll take over. And that is what is occurring all over your world now. And that is why you decided to be here, to shift that balance, because you will see those in other countries, it's all over. The United States is just being the example, but you'll see those who are trying to maintain this power that they've had throughout their history, throughout their DNA forever, and they're trying to maintain that. But that can't happen, you see, because you're meant to move into a new world. And it's going to happen because it's already in the works. But the only question is, how long is that going to take? Because the more that you keep fighting with yourself, you add to the extension of this kind of uncomfortableness that many of you are moving through now. And it is uncomfortable, we understand, but you don't have to do that. You could change in an instant, 12 seconds. That's what you would need. And then you start to put a different energy into the world, and you start to see that manifest. And we're saying this today because the United States will go through this reckoning. We've given you that as well. And as they're looking at that, they're going to have to make choices. We wanted you and those who are around, and especially those in the United States, to understand how important your input, let's say, will be at this time. And that input is within you. We can't say this often, we can't say this too much. We just, you deciding to just give yourself everything, that the selfishness that we want you to have is going to be powerful because we know who you are. We know that if you get more, you're going to help others. You're not going to hold on to it. You're going to help yourself, because we want you to give it first to yourself, because you have to. It's an emotional feeling of empowerment that you need. Empowerment that you have to have, where you can allow the energetic of wealth and income and all of that to come into you. You can't do it when you're putting yourself down. You can't do that when you're judging yourself. You can't do that when you think things are going wrong or you've done everything wrong. You have not. You're just waited for this time in your world's experience so that you could evolve and cause your world, allow your world to do the same thing. Yes, you're going to allow your world, let's put it that way. But you each hold that ability. And the more of you who decide to hold on to that, and this is, we know that you're not going to do it in an ego-oriented way, as Roger kind of feared many, many years ago, but you're never going to do it in an ego-oriented way. You're going to do it in a way that's going to be loving, that's going to be inclusive, that you're going to help more, and then you're going to see such a difference. But the place, again, to begin is with you, is to start right where you are, deciding that you're going to let go of all of your doubts about that, doubts about who you are, all of it. The thing that happens, we want to give you this. When you move through our work, and this is what has happened with many there, when you continue with it, it doesn't happen. You may have, you may stop. There are many who have stopped and then they come back with, we've done that. Roger's done that his entire life. And so, but what happens is you gradually change your brain. Because again, that's the only place you live. The only way that you create or experience anything is in your perceptions. That's all that it is. So everything that we gave you was a new way of thinking about yourself and removing your barriers and blocks and then feeling better. That's all that it was. And some of you have seen that you went through the program and you're going through it every day, if you stayed with it. And then you start to see, oh, I'm feeling better. Oh, something's happening. Oh, I see things differently. And then you get to this place where you don't have any more fear. You don't have fear and doubt. I mean, you may have worry and anxiety and all of those things that come up occasionally, but you're not going to go to the same place that you were because you've changed your brain and your perceptions. And that is how you experience absolutely everything in your life and in the world. And now is the time that you were meant to do that. There are other things, and we'll just tell you because many of you are not aware of some of the other forces, activities that are happening in your world that have been accumulating for a long time, just as you have been. They have been accumulating to bring up this great amount of contrast to cause each of you to see what has been hidden. We told you that that was going to happen. There'll be more of it. They're going to reveal things. And it's mainly happening mostly in the United States, but the rest of the world is following suit and they're exposing things and showing things. And it's all about the control that you each have been under. That's all. And so that control you took into your consciousness and you started to control yourselves. You started to think you weren't enough. You started to think you weren't that powerful because all these other people had everything, especially the money. And so you couldn't be that powerful. Yes, you are. And that's the shift. That's the change. That is the restructuring that is occurring. And that is why you are alive. And we are so pleased that you decided to do that because we know that once you do, you're going to make this big difference. Now, we have to have some other balance. You're each of finding balance within yourself, and Roger has to find it within himself because he's given up everything to bring this to try to attempt to bring this all to you. But then he gets to a place where he can't even sustain himself in this physical world, you see, because he has this a memory that he thinks about all the other things and the physical things aren't as important to him, but they need to be because he can't sustain himself. You can't either, you see. You may think that none of these things matter to you and money, possessions, where you live, all that, they do. because they cause you to feel empowered. And so when you allow yourself to feel empowered, you can do more. And then you create the life that you wanted. It's not about anything, again, that's all out there. It's about you. You decide you wanted to have a life. You wanted to move through all of your restrictions. You wanted to move through any other memory of what you might have had in some other life, whatever, that many of you will not have that memory. However, but there's something you're moving through. And it's a generational change, which makes it really fun. Meaning, everything that you have brought into the world, that you've brought in from your parents, your ancestors, all of those who came before, you wanted to make it better. Well, we have to use a human term so you get what we mean. You wanted to make it better. So while it might have felt challenging or difficult or something like that to you, no, that's what you wanted. Because if you decide to move through it, wow, you become better, you become empowered, and you've shifted your evolution, you see. And you won't have to repeat that stuff again. I know this idea of these other lives is challenging, but again, if you move through the things now that have been challenging, difficult, or all of that, you will never repeat those. You'll be in this blissful place in your other lifetimes, and you'll create far more than you're even doing now. But this is the lifetime that you meant to move through these huge difficulties so that you could bring in a new world. You are not going to have anything, this is the other thing that's challenging for many of you, is that because of this change, your life is looking quite different than what it did before. And some of you had these dreams, these ideals of what things were going to be, and it's not that. Now, not everyone. Many of you there are so many people that many of you might not even be paying attention to are having this glorious lifetime. They have no awareness of anything else that's going on. They're just living in opulence and having a great time. Those are examples for you to watch. Those are people for you to look at, because you could do that as well. You could be those people. You all have that ability. So the more of you who decide to give yourselves those pleasures, you change everything, because we know who you are. We know that you would go and then start making a difference in other parts, not just in your life, but you would help other parts of your world do the same thing. And this is an evolutionary change in your world, the entire world. And that's what's happening. And so we wanted to do this today to tell you that as you're moving through these next several months, because there will be a little, it'll be through the, when you get into 2023, you're going to see things really, really differently, but you have to move through that. And so we want you to understand this is why we gave you all of our work. And then if you haven't noticed, if you've read some of the, we purposely did this, we knew that you wouldn't be complete with what you were setting out to do, because humans move slowly and then collectively you move slowly as well. So change takes time. So give yourself some forgiveness, be patient with yourself, and you need to be patient with your world, because it will take some time for you to move through these restrictions. However, that is what you are doing now. That's what you all are doing within yourself. And as you do that, it will be much better. Now, when you see things that look really challenging, difficult, as you will, and you're even in the next couple of days, you're going to look at your weather, for instance, and that's going to give you some pause. It's going to give you some like, oh, wow, what are we doing? That's the wake-up call that you wanted. Because if you go in and start loving yourself and taking care of what you meant to do, you're energetically changing everything that's happening, and that permeates your entire world. And then people will start making different choices. There are many who will say, well, you've had these changes in your histories before. Yeah, you have, but none of you remember those. None of you know what those were. You've had things, and again, you've had planets that have disappeared. There are things beyond your universes that be beyond this planet that you don't have any awareness of, but there have been changes forever. You have no it's not even possible for you to have a memory or feeling or an awareness of what happened 1 million years ago. you have no concept of that. But you have technology to study all of that, and it would do you well to look at it, because you will see all of these different changes, and you exist to help this particular change in your world. And in doing so, what you are doing is causing your life to be great. And you may not think that's valuable or worth it. It is. It is the thing that you wanted, and it's the thing, and it's the reason why you're alive at this particular time in your world's history, so that you could allow that to occur. So as the United States starts to look at all of their changes and all their restrictions and the whole bit, which have been going on forever, we'll speak on this. You've seen there's a lot of anger going on because of the women's rights, the whole abortion deal. Now, you'll each have to make your own choices about that, and you'll need to come to some choices about that. We've given you some information, but you have to remember, even with this is challenging, because we're going to give you this, but it will help when you think about it and kind of sort through it. You are a soul. You have full control over everything that is occurring, including when you come into the world and if you come into the world. You think that doing an abortion, we understand this is why you have to live in human terms. You think that doing an abortion, you're killing something. That soul, it has made an agreement. That soul made an agreement to do what they were wanted to do in their evolutionary journey. You're not controlling that, but you think you are. You use those things to think you're controlling something. However, the soul has the ability to direct everything. You don't even leave your body until your soul says, okay, well, you're done now. That's it. And that can happen in the moment of inception. You say, okay, I came in and I did my part now I'm going to leave. We know that's challenging for many of you. It was challenging for Roger when we gave it to him more than 30 years ago. But you will understand it, because if you keep fighting about that, you will fight about everything else. But it's about you. Come to an understanding within yourself where you can find this peace and love and acceptance, and knowing that what you are doing is healing yourself, healing your soul, so that you can move on to the great beyond in such a wonderful, wonderful, magnificent way. And that will be the experience of your world as well. We are complete, and we would love to see if there's anything that any of you have to say or ask. And I don't know. Let me see. Oh. Okay, let me stop my share here. Hi, guys. Okay, it's just Lester. Oh, you're great. Okay, I'm going to stop this recording. So we will have this, and we will send this out to everyone. Great.